If you take proteins in your daily life, then stop taking this because the way most people use protein today is careless and often pushed past what the body quietly needs. More shakes and more meat don't always mean more strength. Sometimes they mean more pressure, especially on organs that never complain until they're already tired. Kidneys work every second to clean your blood, and food choices decide how heavy that job becomes. Well, in this video, we're going to talk honestly about protein, where a safe line usually sits, and what happens when it's crossed. The quiet problem nobody talks about. Let me ask you something honestly. When was the last time you worried about something that didn't hurt at all? Most people don't. The body trains us to respond to discomfort, not quiet changes. You feel normal, energy feels steady. Workouts still happen, meals still go down easily, and all of that looks like proof that everything is fine. But the body has another habit most people don't notice. It keeps certain problems quiet while pressure builds in the background, slowly, without a single obvious warning sign. Strain doesn't arrive like an injury, it stacks, slowly, day after day. Extra work, extra waste, extra demand, repeated so often that it becomes invisible. Weeks turn into months, months blur into years. And because nothing dramatic interrupts daily life, the mind files everything under fine. That's how long-term stress survives, not through danger but through comfort. People usually imagine health problems as events, a moment, a warning, a sudden shift. Reality is duller and more dangerous. It's routine. It's habits repeated while nothing seems wrong. By the time consequences finally show themselves, the story didn't start there. It started far earlier, when everything still felt normal. That's why the real conversation isn't about panic. It's about noticing where quiet pressure begins and asking a question most people never stop to ask. Where does supportive intake quietly turn into excess? Where healthy ends and risk begins? Here's where most confusion lives. People want a number, a clean answer, a perfect daily target they can write down and never rethink. But the body doesn't work like a nutrition label. What supports one person can strain another, and both can believe they're doing the same healthy thing. A smaller body doesn't process the same load as a larger one. Age matters too, because recovery, filtration, and repair don't move at the same speed at 40 as they did at 20. Training style changes the picture. Heavy lifting, endurance work, or a mostly sedentary routine all shift needs in different directions. Then sleep enters the conversation, quietly deciding how well the body actually recovers from what you eat. Add stress, add hydration, add medical background, family history, blood pressure, blood sugar. Suddenly, that single perfect number collapses. That's why real guidance lives in ranges, not goals. Flexible zones that move with your life instead of controlling it. Trouble usually doesn't come from intentional extremes. It comes from an accident, from stacking shakes on top of meals, copying athletes with different bodies, from keeping habits long after circumstances change. Most people don't leap over the line, they drift. And they only realize it existed after they've already crossed it. And now let's talk about early signals. Most people miss small shifts that feel too ordinary to respect. A kind of tiredness that gets blamed on work. Thirst that seems normal. Changes in how often you go to the bathroom that don't feel worth mentioning. Slight swelling that disappears by morning. Foam that comes and goes. Back discomfort that gets written off as posture or training soreness. None of these feels like warnings. They feel like life. That's the trap. Subtle patterns become background noise. When something shows up gradually, the mind adjusts to it instead of questioning it. And because nothing is sharp or urgent, nothing gets connected. Each change is treated as its own tiny inconvenience rather than part of a growing picture. Accumulation is the real story. Not one bad week, not one heavy phase, but small daily signals layered so slowly they blend into routine. By the time symptoms turn unmistakable, they're no longer early, they're late. Prevention never announces itself. It lives in noticing things while they're still easy to ignore, in checking before problems demand attention, in treating quiet changes as information instead of interruptions. Real health protection doesn't start with diagnosis. It starts much earlier, when the body is still only suggesting that something deserves a second look. Real food versus manufactured protein. Imagine two situations. One is a plate in front of you. You sit down, chew, slow down, swallow, pause, and feel full before the meal even ends. The other is a bottle, a bar, a scoop mixed in water that disappears in 30 seconds. Same word on the label. Completely different experience in the body. Real food forces interaction. Chewing activates digestion. Texture stretches time. Fullness has space to arrive. Signals travel. The stomach gets a vote. That process naturally limits how much you take in. Manufactured protein removes most of those breaks. Liquids slide past the mouth without resistance. Bars compress huge amounts into small volumes. The body doesn't get the same early warnings, and by the time fullness speaks, intake is already high. Digestion speed matters too. Whole foods move more slowly. They demand work. They occupy space. Powders and processed bars move fast, stacking servings before the system has caught up. That's why excess rarely comes from steak or lentils alone. It comes from convenience, from adding shakes on top of meals, from drinking what would have been hard to chew. Nothing about supplements is evil. The danger is effortlessness. When intake stops requiring time, attention, or appetite, overdoing it stops feeling like a decision. It becomes something you sit between emails. What enough usually looks like in real life. Let's bring this back to earth for a minute, because most people don't live in training camps or on bodybuilding stages. Real life has jobs, stress, sleep debt, social meals, skipped workouts, and busy weeks. And enough changes inside that reality. Someone mostly sedentary doesn't need the same intake as someone who moves daily. A generally active person walking, working, training lightly sits in a different zone than someone lifting heavy multiple times a week. Strength-focused routines raise needs again, but even there, more stops helping long before people think it does. The body doesn't reward endless increases. It responds to sufficiency. That's why guidance works better when it's simple. Eat protein at meals. Let portions make sense visually, not mathematically. Adjust upward when training is intense. Let it settle when life slows. Enough supports repair, hormones, immunity, and muscle without turning food into a project. The biggest shift is mental. Stop chasing peaks. Stop eating for the most extreme week you've ever trained. Build for maintenance. For months that look average. For years that don't feel dramatic. Consistency protects the body far more than occasional high targets. Enough isn't impressive, it's sustainable. And sustainability is what health actually runs on. Building a smarter protein lifestyle. If this were a diet, it would end with rules. This isn't a diet, it's a system. A way of treating intake like something that works with your body instead of against it. Start with spacing. Protein spread across the day gives the body time to process, instead of forcing it to manage everything at once. Then hydration. Waste moves with fluid. When water drops, strain rises. That relationship never stops mattering. After that comes rotation. Different sources bring different amino profiles, minerals, digestion speeds, and gut responses. Living on one form narrows what the body receives. Recovery belongs in this conversation too. Rest phases aren't a weakness, they're where repair happens. Needs during heavy training blocks are not lifetime needs. Letting the intake breathe when training breaths keeps the balance intact. Then there's routine testing. Not because something is wrong, but because guessing isn't a strategy. Occasional blood work turns invisible processes into visible information. When all of this comes together, it stops being about high or low. It becomes a long-term habit. Eating patterns that adjust, hydration that stays consistent, training cycles that include downshifts, check-ins that replace assumptions. That's control. No restriction, not obsession. A structure built to last years, not just seasons. The long view most people never take. Most people design their health around moments they want to reach instead of the years they have to live. A body for an event, a look for a season, a performance for a short chapter. That kind of thinking quietly trains the mind to ignore everything that doesn't show up fast. But the body never lives in fast time. It records. It remembers. It adapts slowly, and it collects the cost of habits long after the excitement around them fades. What feels powerful in a short burst can become heavy when repeated without pause. The danger isn't effort. It's an effort without a horizon. Looking far ahead changes what strong even means. Strength stops being about what you can force and starts becoming about what you can carry. A body that keeps its systems stable, its energy reliable, its recovery intact, its future flexible. One that supports work, movement, aging, setbacks, and change without a constant repair mode. When choices are filtered through decades instead of weeks, extremes lose their charm. Balance gains weight, adjustments replace pushes, and health stops being something you chase and becomes something you protect. That perspective doesn't weaken ambition. It disciplines it. It gives intensity a place to live without letting it quietly write debts that the future has to pay. The choice you may avoid. At the end of all of this, nothing here works without one shift most people resist making, moving from reaction to responsibility, from repeating what's popular to deciding what actually fits. Protein never ruined anyone's health by existing. Problems grow from how casually it gets stacked, copied, and extended without reflection. This conversation only matters if it changes how you see your own habits, not someone else's. The real choice isn't between high and low, it's between unconscious and aware, between letting routines run on autopilot and shaping them around a body you intend to keep functional. Respect shows up in simple places, in spacing what you eat instead of compressing it, in drinking enough instead of fixing fatigue with more intake, in rotating sources instead of leaning on one shortcut, in letting phases close instead of turning them into lifestyles, in checking reality instead of assuming it. Longevity is built quietly, through decisions that don't look impressive but feel stable, through patterns that leave room for change, through attention paid before problems ask for it. That's the choice most people avoid because it doesn't hype you, it anchors you. And anchored habits are the ones that stay when motivation doesn't. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video informative, then don't forget to press the subscribe button. Take care, we will catch you soon.